Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for spending your Saturday afternoon talking about nutrition. I'm Erica, if you don't know me. Let's see if it's kind of loud in here. So my friend Juan back here is going to be recording, and that's why I have this mic here. Just so we have it for people who couldn't make it. And yeah, not sure what we'll do with the video yet, but if you ask me a question, I may repeat the question so that the video or the recording has it, just a heads up, all right? So my name's Erica. Primarily work downtown at 28th Street, so I see some faces I haven't seen before, but I'm here time to time, filling in like this morning. So today's seminar is the Nutrition 201. So I've been running a Nutrition 101 for the past 6-7 months. So if you missed that, no worries. We're gonna kind of recap whatever you missed and then build on top of it. So before I get into any of this content, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and who I am. So I've been working here for the past 3 years, coming up on 4 years. Been coaching CrossFit since 2012. Before that, I was doing some personal training. My undergrad is in exercise science from Central Connecticut State University, where I played D1 soccer. So since getting into fitness and training and then CrossFit, that kind of led me to a natural evolution of like nutrition, and then even more so like a full spectrum of wellness. So I ended up getting certified as a health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That's been my latest endeavor about 2 years ago at this point. So I'm a health coach. I essentially consult people on diet and lifestyle factors to improve, health overall. So that's a little bit about me. I guess the intention of this seminar, all right, in the 101, a lot of what I covered, I guess the two big takeaways, right, building balanced meals, right? So without building balanced meals, you're not regulating your blood sugar and maintaining weight and all those things that we're striving to do. So the key with that, balanced meals, so that's hitting all your macronutrients, and we'll talk more about that later. And then also decreasing inflammation, right? So that's huge in terms of energy, productivity, and like overall feeling really good. So again, two things we'll talk about later. But that was like the foundation of healthy eating, right? And then today is more about, okay, now I know what to do, but how do I do that in like a real life setting, right? Living my busy Manhattan lifestyle. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. So what that starts with, I have up here the single most profound tool to improve nutrition. Does anyone know what I think this is? I wrote a blog post on it this past week, so if you check our blog, you may have seen it. But it's a food log. So super simple tool, right? Doesn't require a lot of technology, but very profound, right? Reason being, if awareness creates change, right? You got to first be, not blind to what's going on, so you can actively change it. What I recommend tracking here, all right? And this can be done in just like a journal. With my health coaching clients, we use a shared Google spreadsheet, right? So they log every day, I can see it every day. And what I have them track starts with, right, what you ate. Right, so lunch today I went to Sweet Green, right? Got a salad with a bunch of veggies, chicken, some almonds, and some dressing. How much? Right, and I'm not a big believer in like weighing and measuring. It's more just like if you had 3 eggs, maybe write that, as opposed to like 1 egg. How it was prepared. So, baked versus fried or roasted, whatever it may be. So how the food was cooked, did you buy it out, was it homemade, all these things are relevant. Then we have why you ate it. So Were you starving? Was it time to eat? Were your friends eating it? Was there nothing else available? Were you craving it? So, whatever the reason may be. And then the last one, probably the most important piece here, how you felt afterwards. See you, Paula. So, did that meal, did it satiate you? Right? Were you hungry an hour later? Did it make you feel bloated or fatigued? Did it give you energy? Right? Did you feel really good after eating it? Did it make you break out? Like, did it flare up your eczema? Like, whatever it may be, that's, note that.
How long usually after you eat it does it make you feel a certain way? Is it like an hour usually after?
So after you eat a meal, how much longer are you kind of assessing the situation?
Yeah.
It depends. So I think leading up until whenever you eat again, but something you could feel a certain way immediately. It could be a delayed onset. So it kind of varies.
Okay.
But I guess pay attention throughout the day. Just, And once you start tracking your food and you're actively writing it down every day, it becomes like your normal thought process. Where if you start to feel fatigued in the afternoon, for instance, and in the past you just were like, oh, I'm just tired. Now you might be like, oh, well, what did I have for breakfast that, now I'm fatigued. So not sure if that answers your question, but I would just keep paying attention the whole day.
Okay.
So, if that helps. All right, so that's what to track in your little food log. What else we want to pay attention to is going to be cravings. So I know that cravings kind of have a bad rap. It's something that we tend to we want to suppress them. We don't want to have them. We try to distract ourselves from them to make them go away. And it's counterintuitive because cravings are actually, they're a feedback mechanism. So they're kind of your body's way of speaking to you, communicating. So they're important to pay attention to. In your food log, you can write down in a column, did you have any cravings today? And maybe that's for sugar, maybe it's for caffeine, maybe it was some kind of fat, maybe it was pizza, whatever it may be, because that'll give you insight to any, deficiencies you may have, any holes in the diet, right? There's a term called nutritional hunger. So that's when you may have eaten plenty of calories, right? Your belly's full, but your body's still hungry, you're still having cravings. That's because some nutritional need has not been met yet, right? So your body's trying to tell you, and so it's our job to kind of lean into that and pay attention and try to figure out what's missing, okay? And then we also want to record markers to gauge your progress, right? So we're tracking what we're eating, we're paying attention to our cravings, but then how do we know if we're moving in the right direction? So these are things like, how am I looking? How's my body composition? Right? How's my skin? Literally, how are the whites of my eyes? So that's something when inflammation goes down, people's whites of their eyes get brighter. Right? So all these things, just looking at yourself, you can pay attention to. How am I feeling? So that's your mood, that's your energy, things like that. That's your outlook, all connected to diet. How are we performing? So that's in the gym. How do you feel during your workout? Did you feel energized? Were you lethargic? Did you have enough endurance to make it through the class? Did you kind of check out halfway through? All of those things are important to pay attention to. Not only in the gym, but then, at work and at home. How are you performing? So how's your mental clarity? Are you able to get through your workday without any dips and lulls? Things like that. So that all falls into performance. And then the last piece is any type of healing. So autoimmune related. Or immunity in general. So oftentimes people clean up their diet and then they stop getting colds, flus, seasonal allergies, completely disappear. So those are all things to pay attention to. In terms of autoimmunity, those are more things like arthritis or eczema, things like that. Gut issues, so any kind of IBS, things like that. And then from there, once we're gathering all this data, once we have lots of data, and I do this with my clients for a 6-month interval, so we have lots of data, then you can start to connect the dots, right? And connecting the dots means, becoming aware and in tune to how specific foods make you feel. And then once you have that information, you can make informed judgment calls. So if I know that, dairy makes me super fatigued and bloated, am I going to choose to eat that on, the day before I have a big presentation or a date or something that I need to be on for, right? So you always have that choice. So I'm not a big fan of telling people what to eat and what to never eat. It's all right, well, how does it make you feel? And then you just make a choice. So in this food log, most of what I'm commenting on there is I'm asking more questions. So if they write down a meal, I'm just going to be okay, and how'd you feel? And how'd you feel? And how'd you feel? And just cultivating more and more awareness.
You track, let's say you eat eggs, would you write down whether they're organic or whether they come from, is that something that you would consider tracking also?
Absolutely, yeah. So the quality of the food's definitely important. I think it becomes more nuanced. So if you take someone who's eating a lot of processed food, for instance, and then they start to eat more whole foods, I think that's enough of a change. But then once you're there, let's say you eat all whole foods already, then it's all right, can we eat all non-GMO, all organic, and then see how it, improves these areas.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's definitely all relevant. So yeah, then we start to connect these dots. So what allergens affect me and then in what doses. So we talked a lot about allergens in the 101. So if you picked up my little book in the front, I'm actually going to grab one. So this is my 1-minute nutrition guide, and on the back it talks about evaluating the common allergens. Right, there's a little checklist there. So these allergens they're grains, especially gluten-containing grains, dairy, legumes, soy, added sugar, industrial seed oils, so that's canola oil, vegetable oil, nightshades, if you've heard of that being a problem for some people, so potatoes, that's white potatoes, eggplant, peppers, things like that, and then alcohol and caffeine. So these are all things that affect people to varying degrees in also varying doses. So it's really hard to make a blank statement, but that's why this is all tailor-made to yourself. So paying attention how those things make you feel, so then you know, right? So those are the allergens. The reason that's important, kind of evaluating these allergens, is like I said before, to decrease inflammation. All right, so I know that this is spoken about a lot at this point in the health sphere, inflammation, but I don't think a lot of people grasp what it is. So it's the aging of your cells or your body on a cellular level. So the way that we feel that is, if you've ever slept full night's sleep, 8 hours, and you wake up and you still feel tired, right? That's inflammation. Or if you've ever had times where you just can't think straight or retrieve the information you're looking for, and you feel a little foggy, that brain fog, that's inflammation, right? All this autoimmunity that I'm talking about, that's inflammation based. What else? I think those are the big rocks that probably most of you can connect with. So that's inflammation. And then we want to also connect the dots in terms of balanced meals. All right, so are we hitting the proper amounts of macronutrients? Right. So also what we talked about in the 101. So let's review this. Does anyone know what a macronutrient is? Yeah.
Proteins, fats, and they make up
exactly. Protein, fat, carbs. Awesome. So we need all of those components to build a balanced meal, right? So what changes, just to, the broadest strokes, I should have wrote that here. So every time you eat, we want a source of protein in there, all right? Reason being, we don't store protein in the body the way that we store fat and carbs. The only protein in the body is going to be your lean muscle mass. So it's a really small pool of amino acids that can be pulled to, rebuild tissue. Once you're out of that, right, it's time to eat again, eat more protein. Otherwise, it's going to catabolize muscle tissue. So, and that's something none of us want, right? Because we're already, degenerating as we age. So we want to maintain that lean mass. So always a source of protein. And then we want a source of fat. Fat is an energy source, all right? It's not something that eating fat doesn't make you fat, all right? That's another misconception. It does give you energy. So we need a source of fat. And then carbohydrate, this is also an energy source, all right? However, this is going to be utilized surrounding your workouts. All right, so it's more of a short-term versus a long-lasting energy source as opposed to fats. All right, and then veggies, that'll fill in your micronutrients. So vitamins and minerals you're going to get from veggies because that's the most bang for your buck. All right, you get micronutrients from all whole foods, but veggies will give you the most for the least amount of calories. So that's why we love veggies, and also the fiber content. So that's going to help keep you satiated. Yes. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So that's why I'm going to give you like this template of like a meal map. And then once you start following it, and then you can pay attention to, all right, was that meal satiating? Did it get me through my workout? Did it make me feel good today? And then you can start to play with the different macros to like suit your, specific needs. Yeah, so in the same way that we're doing it with the allergens, we're doing it with our macronutrients too. So what I suggest, like broadest stroke, always a source of protein. Then if it's a training day, fat is gonna go down, carbs are gonna go up. And this is like illustrated pretty like straightforward in that first page. So fat goes down, carbs go up because you're going to utilize them in your workout. And then you still need your veggies, right? If you're not working out, okay, it's a rest day, fat's going to go up and carbs go down. You still have protein and veggies at every meal, right? Because you're not going to utilize those carbs if you're not training, and fat will fill in as the energy source. Does that make sense? All right. So that's a pretty basic like meal map to follow. And once you start doing that and then paying attention to all these things, you can figure out again what the holes are. So are you not getting enough carbs because you're craving sugar? So then these the proportions need to change a little bit. All right, so that's our balanced meal, macros, micros. And then kind of reminds me of your question from earlier, the whole foods to moving to like organic, non-GMO stuff. If this is like my wellness continuum, right? Sickness here at the end, other extreme, optimal, and then wellness right in the middle. So any little change that you do that's gonna move you in that direction, I think is huge. So I know when it comes to making change, a lot of people will put it off until you can like do everything all at once, right? If you just do 1%, like 1% today, in 50 days, like you're halfway there, right? You're halfway to your goal. Whereas if you're just putting off starting for like weeks and weeks, then you're still nowhere. You haven't made any progress. So even if it's something really simple, like adding in green stuff to like a meal every single day, like that's a win, right? Cutting out some processed foods, excess flour, excess sugar. cutting out one of the allergens, whether that's gluten or dairy, and evaluating it. These are all small wins that are going to get you closer to just, becoming your best self and feeling optimal. And I guess the last thing I want to mention here is that biology, it likes homeostasis. So anytime, right, anytime you go for something extreme, especially with diet, any kind of extreme diet, and I'm sure you've seen this, usually that pendulum comes swinging back the other direction even harder, right, than when you started. So I highly recommend really small, sustainable changes. And that's why I work with my clients for 6 months, because we do really small, sustainable changes versus the 1 month, let's do like a massive diet cleanup, and then you can't stick with it after that. So, any questions so far? You guys doing good? Yeah.
Do you recommend using some kind of like online calculator, like if it's your macros or like MyFitnessPal?
Yeah. I think MyFitnessPal is. Oh yeah, the question. Do I recommend using an online like tracker? I think you can get a lot of benefit with just like a journal and logging your food. If there's any kind of severe craving, then I would be like, okay, let's look into the exact macros, because more than likely you're missing a proportion of one of them. So, but I do think those are good apps and provide a lot of insight. So it's definitely worth trying. Yeah.
Is cheat day a real thing? Say yes, please.
It depends. Depends what your goals are, So figuring out what your threshold is, right? So to what degree can you cheat and still make progress is going to be highly individual. So I can't really be like, oh yeah, everyone can have 2 cheat days and they'll be fine. It depends on your starting point, where you want to go, and then just being okay with the rate at which you get there. So if you need that cheat day, just be comfortable that progress is going to be a little bit slower, and there's nothing wrong with that if you're cool with it. You know what I mean? So, but that's something to evaluate. You have this cheat day once a week. How are you performing? How are you looking? How are you feeling? How are you moving towards your goals? And then, making decisions based off that. So. But yeah, I don't shun people for a cheat day or anything like that. It's, you always have the choice. But I will say best time to splurge is always going to be post-workout, right? Yeah, that's when things can kind of go right through you.
There is no good week.
What are sources of protein that you would recommend for people who don't eat meat?
Okay, that's a good question. And one that I get a lot, and I should really do some more research. Sorry. Oh, the question, what are good protein sources for people who don't eat meat? Right? Because obviously on this thing I have all the animals for the protein sources. Animal of your choice. I honestly don't have a great answer for that, because you have to mix and match a lot of smaller protein sources. So you can get a little bit of protein kind of from everything, from nuts and seeds to all types of vegetables, broccoli, sweet potatoes. You can get protein from various grains. So the conflict becomes when, if you're taking out allergens like legumes and grains, then, where are you going to get the protein from? So I do find that that's a little tricky, but can definitely be done. So I think evaluating what grains that you do well with and how much legumes you can handle and still feel good, and then those you can get protein from that. Does that help a little bit? Yeah.
Check out seitan, and there's also plant-based protein powders. So I was vegan for a minute.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the soy-based things, or the seitan. Yeah, that's right. It's just pure gluten. So I'm like, never eat that. Never eat that. Yeah. Yeah, so I think more vegetables, non-gluten grains. Yeah, some legumes, stuff like that.
Is there any good wheat? Is there a better quality wheat that you could eat, or is all wheat bad?
Wheat is just, it's not good for anyone. Everyone is sensitive. It's just to what degree. how it shows up. Maybe I'm affected more than you are, but everyone is definitely affected. So I guess in terms of carb sources, maybe that could be more helpful. So I definitely, cut, like I would never eat wheat again, but there's lots of ways to get the carbs in your diet, especially for you guys as athletes, right? You all do CrossFit. It's a highly glycolytic sport, so you're going to utilize carbs for it to have fun doing the sport. So white rice, I'm a big fan of. White rice.
As a source of like you could make bread with it, or like because I'm thinking about pizza.
Okay. Okay, you're thinking about pizza. Yeah. Okay. There's definitely tons of gluten-free flours out there, and like paleofied pizza crusts that can be like coconut flour, almond flour. I know there's even like people are into like the cauliflower crust, but I've had gluten-free pizza that's actually really, really good. So not sure the different grains, but I want to say like tapioca, like arrowroot, things like that can still like taste really good and be gluten-free. You know what? I've been all about cassava flour lately. I've been making tortillas with it. It's so good. It's yuca flour, and it's amazing. Like the texture and everything's really good, and it's totally gluten-free. It's just a root vegetable. So yeah, so it's like getting creative and kind of letting go of what like the norms are, and like making your own like new normals. Yeah.
Can you clear up the white rice versus the brown rice thing? I stopped eating white rice, right? And I'm eating brown rice. But then my girlfriend goes, it doesn't matter. The white rice and brown rice, it's just how much of it. And I'm like, I don't
Totally. Yeah. This is like the big debate, like brown rice, white rice. I'll give you like my take on it. So grains or plants in general, I guess, they want to survive just like animals want to survive, okay? But they don't have claws and teeth. So they're built-in mechanisms to make them undigestible, okay? So brown rice, with that example, the germ and the bran, those are, deemed the healthy parts of the grain, right? That's why brown rice is like deemed healthy. However, that's where these phytates and lectins, these like problematic proteins live. And so they wreak havoc on your gut, right? So they literally put holes in the intestinal lining. So things that should never be in your bloodstream seep into your bloodstream, causing, right, inflammation, right? Yeah, so not good things. So we can't actually absorb the nutrients that are beneficial like on paper, right? So the reason I like white rice for athletes is because it takes out all the good, takes out all the bad, right? It's just a blank slate, just pure carbohydrate, right? So if you need some carbs, right, that's a good place to get them. Did you get it at Costco? Yeah.
So you're saying don't eat brown rice because it eats out your intestines. Tell me verbatim, like don't eat it.
Yeah. White rice is going to be a cleaner option. But I'm not saying go ham on white rice. It's still like a ton of carbs. But like post-workout, yeah, have a bowl of white rice with like some protein, veggies. Yeah, there's tons of stories out there from people who were like very grain heavy, like not even necessarily vegetarians, but just like grain heavy diets that are like historically healthy, suffering from a ton of like GI distress, right? Like irritable bowel syndrome, constant like bloating, fatigue, and that's the whole mechanism. So it is like counterintuitive because our conventional knowledge is like, no, brown rice is better, but yeah. So, and also, you don't have to take my word for it, like try it. So take out the brown rice, right? 7 days, reintroduce and see how you feel. It's great, so healthy. Okay, where were we? Any other questions? All right. Yeah.
You didn't talk about sugar, but there's a lot of anti-sugar now, so
Yeah.
Splenda, is that okay? Or?
I'm gonna say no. Yeah, so sugar, we don't love sugar, for the blood sugar spike and then the dip. and it kind of keeps you coming back for more, that whole feedback loop. But the artificial sweeteners, they're not doing you any other favors because the body just has no idea how to process them. So it just like wreaks a lot of havoc, right? So it's not going to necessarily make you like fat from like a blood sugar standpoint, but your body has no idea how to process this, and it's causing the whole inflammation loophole. So I would avoid it. I would use like natural. If you're gonna do something like add sugar to something, use something natural like honey. Yeah. Yes. No, it's okay. You're allowed to ask questions.
The red grape versus the green grapes. In my house, it's
There's a debate there?
it's one of red.
Oh, okay. Red versus green grapes. I think they're both good. Yeah, they're both good. The debate is probably because the red has like more polyphenols and like antioxidants, but you know, fruit is good. I always think this is funny because I have family members that'll like ask me things like that, like, oh, should I not eat bananas because they have a lot of sugar? And I'm like, but you still eat Pop-Tarts. Like, yeah, so don't worry about cutting out any fruit until like your diet's really clean. Then that's like more nuanced. Okay, like how can I take it to the next level? But if there's still some kind of like processed foods going on, like a red versus green grape, they're both good. Yeah, both good. No, I like the debates that go on at your house. It's funny. All right. So, is it clear, kind of like how to eat, what to avoid? Is that becoming more clear? All right, cool. So then I want to talk about setting yourself up for success, right? Because now you kind of know how you want to eat. So how are we going to do that in a real life setting? And the first step to that is going to be some form of a meal prep. All right. Because, you know, it's going to get really challenging after a long day. You're starving, just left the gym. There's nothing at home. You're on Seamless. Like, what are you going to order? So we want to kind of like prevent the inevitable, plan ahead. So like I'm saying, some form of meal prep. The first thing you need to do is actually schedule it. So when do you have some downtime? For most people, that's going to be at some point on the weekend, maybe Sunday afternoon, Saturday morning, whatever it may be. If you have a more unconventional schedule, even like myself, like I usually do it like a Friday morning. So whenever you have time, just map it out in your schedule, block it out, commit to it, make it happen. And then you want to have some kind of plan. So I think meal prep, when you think about what meal prep is, like I at least get this visual of like a bunch of chicken breasts and like sweet potatoes and like, steamed broccoli or something. It doesn't have to be that way. So do some planning, go on Pinterest, find some blogs, find some recipes that excite you. Okay, so this should be something that's fun, that you enjoy, that you look forward to, and that you're gonna, you're excited that you're gonna fuel your body with some like really healthy food that's also, really good. So have some kind of plan, and then, make sure you're ready, right? So go grocery shopping, right? Make a list. Make sure you get all the tools you need. So is that a crock pot? Is that like a spiralizer? Pans? All that stuff. I'm saying that because I have a client who's, she just never cooked. So she was like, oh, okay, I got to get a spatula. So those things are real. They're important. And then it's time to execute. So you have your groceries, you have your recipes, and then, make it fun for you. So maybe you're doing it with your significant other, you're meal prepping together. Maybe you're listening to music, a podcast, like whatever it's going to take for you to like enjoy yourself. And then the last piece here, super important because this is a real thing. You want to avoid flavor fatigue. Okay, so if you end up eating the same thing for 5 days in a row, it may get boring and it'll turn you off from like this whole healthy eating meal prep lifestyle. And so that's another thing we want to avoid. So this takes some trial and error. All right, so maybe you're not meal prepping for the entire week. Maybe it's for like 3 days. And maybe you have another, opportunity midweek to prep again. Or maybe you're able to cook dinner every night, right? And so you make some extra to pack for lunch tomorrow. So this is, this is gonna be highly dependent on your schedule and how your lifestyle's set up. But if you make it a priority, like you'll figure out where you can insert it. So trial and error on that. So another thing I want to talk about is having some kind of emergency foods, right? Because it's inevitable at some point, you're not going to have anything on hand, or you got really busy, you didn't have time to cook, something like that, and you want to have options. So, we get Kettlebell Kitchen delivered here, as you guys know. I think they do a great job. I order a few meals every single week, and they kind of fill in the gaps, right? So I'm not saying necessarily you should eat every single meal every single day from Kettlebell Kitchen. Like that could also get played out. But I like it as just like an emergency thing. Like, oh, I didn't make anything for tonight, but I have some Kettlebell Kitchen. You could also freeze their stuff if you end up not using it. Yes.
It's like in there they have these like bars that are like, are you okay with like, is that a good emergency, like having those bars around?
Yeah, so that would fall into like snacks, right? So, yeah, I think snacks are good to have like in your bag, in your backpack, for those times you're hungry, there's nothing available. And what you're looking for with snacks is you want to make sure they have whole ingredients. So, I know off the top of my head, like the RX bars we sell, those are, they're fruit and nuts and egg whites, and like maybe some salt or something. So those are ingredients, you know what they are, they're real food, they're whole foods, as opposed to a Quest bar that's like, I can't even tell you it's like chemicals. It's like 3 or 4 chemicals and like whey protein. So I would say that's not whole food. And then just, going back to this like meal delivery / prepared foods. So, if you go to the grocery store and you're buying groceries, like, maybe get like a rotisserie chicken as well. So that's like a good thing to have on hand if you didn't have time to cook or, whatever it may be. Fresh Direct also does a really good job with like having some prepared foods, like chicken breasts and stuff like that. So you got options. Yeah.
Frozen vegetables, are those okay?
Yeah, those are great. Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Some people like say it's not good because they add sodium or something to them, but like reduce some of the nutrients.
Yeah, no, just, with that stuff, make sure you read the ingredients, because I know at this point they do a lot of like meal ones that have like different sauces and like sugar and stuff added. But if you're just getting like frozen kale, and like that's perfectly healthy, definitely. Okay, and then we're talking a lot about cooking. But the reality is we're going to be eating at restaurants, right? We're going to be ordering food. So, how to navigate a menu. So I have a whole list of things to focus on. And number 1 is going to be to scope it out. So at this point, everything's available online, right? You can check out the menu beforehand. And then you'll start finding your spots, right? The places that have healthy food. And, we're in like a really awesome situation here in the city where there's tons of places that exclusively cook with coconut oil and like have tons of meals based around vegetables and like real food. So I don't have a lot of examples around here. I know down at 28th Street, like there's a bunch of like really good spots that have like these bowls where you can get like a base of like rice and vegetables and protein and like some healthy fats from avocados or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Is there another, because I've been following like the bulletproof diet where I eat whole eggs with avocado in the morning.
Nice.
Is there another source of a vegetable that has a lot of fat like avocados that I could try to?
So other fat sources besides just the avocado.
Yeah.
I think that's why avocados are so popular, because they're like the go-to. They really are.
Yeah.
They are unique. I guess my go-to fat sources would also be like nuts and seeds. If you're looking for like a raw, like whole food form.
They have a higher percentage of carbs
Then the avocado, avocado will be like the pure fat.
Okay.
But I would say nuts and seeds and any kind of like cooking fat, like ghee, coconut oil, olive oil, things like that. But yeah, there's nothing's gonna replace like the avocado in that sense. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think if I'm missing something.
Wait, would olives themselves be pro fatty?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
olives.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, forget about olives. Yeah, that's a fat source for sure.
Is it one yeah, olive oil?
Right.
You're not eating like a raw olive like you would a raw avocado, so it's not the same because they'll have like salt and whatever it's bred in, right? And like other
Right.
stuff and it's some kind of preservative usually.
With that diet, I do put like a chunk of grass-fed butter in the coffee, and then I put a bunch of butter in the eggs. So I am basically eating spoonfuls of butter.
The high-fat diet.
It's counterintuitive, but it really works.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of there's a lot of benefit to like a keto style diet. Yeah.
What about the frequency of the meals? Like, how many do you recommend a day? Is there a rhythm that you should have?
So again, like broadest strokes, I recommend 3 meals a day, no snacks. The goal being so you can so the holes in the diet become more apparent. So if you have breakfast and it lasts like 5 or 7 hours, you know, that's you ate a good breakfast. And if it lasts like 2 hours, it's like, okay, like what's missing there? Was there not enough fat? Was there not enough fiber? Not enough protein? Like what is it that I'm missing, that I'm hungry already? So yeah, and obviously if you're hungry, you should eat a snack, but then like notice that, like, okay, what was I missing in a meal that, you know, I needed this snack in between? And the reason I'm into that is because if you're not hungry, if your hunger's shut off for like 5 to 7 hours, then, you know, you have time to like do other things, right? So your mind's not like, you know, oh my gosh, I need my next meal. You can focus like at work, in your meeting, and like whatever you're doing, living your life. So I'm into that.
Intermittent fasting. Thoughts? Have you ever tried it, or is it like a bad thing to do?
I don't think it's a bad thing to do. I think like everything's like worth trying and evaluating. So I would recommend, committing to it, trying like some intermittent fasting and seeing how you feel. Like, you know, pay attention to these markers. For, you know, a lot of the research talks about how women have a harder time with it because it, you know, causes a stress response. And then it's almost like it's doing more damage than good. However, everyone's different. So I guess my recommendation would be to like start slower. So instead of like 24-hour fasts or even 16-hour fasts, start with like a 12-hour or 14-hour and see how you feel. And maybe a couple days a week and not every day. Yeah, but there's tons of research that there's lots of benefits to fasting. So definitely worth evaluating. Did someone else raise their hand?
I was
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, same question? Yeah. Have you played with it?
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you like it?
I think if I'm trying to like lean down, it's helpful.
Yeah.
So I thought about it more that way.
Okay. Cool.
But I have noticed, I think sometimes, I don't know, I don't measure the ketones, but I do feel like a different energy when I'm, I think, in the ketogenic state.
Yeah. So like more mental clarity,
Yeah.
focus. Yeah.
It's counterintuitive and it's a little getting used to because
Yeah.
there's hunger at first,
Right.
but like after a couple of days.
Yeah. So I guess why I don't.
The 8 hour window is the one that made the most sense for me.
Yeah. And then I need to just skip breakfast. because you're-
Yeah, and then you eat at like noon, and then maybe stop at like
So when you're sleeping at night.
Yeah. So that's like that's a popular way to do it. Or some people do the like. There's like I guess they eat normal throughout the week, and then 2 days of the week they eat like a very low amount of calories, like 500 calories. That's really. Or some
Yeah.
people do like a complete 24-hour fast.
Like there's tons of stuff out there, and you know it's all worked for someone at some point. That's why, you know, there is no one size fits all. It's like try different things, see what works for you. However, with the fasting, I think that's another like next level, more nuance. I think if you're not eating a whole foods diet, it doesn't make sense to like, all right, well I'm gonna intermittent fast, and like I'm gonna break my fast with like something not healthy with not a lot of nutrients, and it's probably, you know, your body's gonna get even less vital nutrients than what it probably was getting if you're eating throughout the day. So I think that's definitely like priority. Eat real food, right? Balanced meals, and then, you know, when you're like plateauing or whatever, and you're ready to try something new, then maybe it's like intermittent fasting or different, playing with your macros more, things like that. A little more nuance, in my opinion. All right, back to navigating a menu. So we've checked out our menu, and then I have a list of safe words. All right, so these are things to look for that are like green light. So we got broiled, steamed, poached, what else? Braised, roasted, grilled, sauteed, smoked. Oh, and someone taught me another one at the last nutrition seminar. Julie, you were there. Do you remember what that was?
Sous vide, yeah.
How do I spell that?
S-
What? S-O-U-S.
I guess you didn't do the hydrated.
Okay. Yeah. I thought that was a fancy one. I got to add that to my notes. And then we want to be wary of the following: deep fried, crispy, battered, breaded, coated, and sauced. Wrapped in bacon could be okay. That could be okay. Could be some good fat in there. Yeah, so be wary of those. This is how you kind of navigate reading a menu. And then, you know, if you're out to eat, we want to skip any kind of like those pre-meal freebies, like bread, or, you know, if you're at a bar and like peanuts, stuff like that. You know, really focus on your entree. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. So like, what's in that? How is it made? Can I get it without this? You know, because they'll accommodate. What's wrong with bar peanuts? So in the allergens, legumes is a common allergen for a lot of people, and peanuts fall into that. So, yeah. So we just want to avoid any kind of excess sugar, excess carbs when we're eating out. So we want to focus on like a balanced meal. So focus on something that has protein, and then don't be afraid to like swap out your sides for like some vegetables. So recently I was out to eat, and there was the entree was a steak with like fries with like all this stuff on it, and I was like, can I sub that out for anything? And they made like roasted Brussels sprouts, and it was like a perfect little meal. So just ask questions.
Actually, on the subject of bars, alcohol, can you make that work in like a diet, like you're like eat well, or you're trying to cut?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the question of, you know, how many cheat days can you have, or, you know, can cheat days work for you? So depending on your goal, where you want to go, how fast you want to get there, you can, you know, definitely incorporate alcohol into your lifestyle. And like I said on this thing, you know, if you're, you know, 6 beers, you know, Friday, Saturday night, if that becomes 4 beers, you know, 2 beers, beer and water, like, you know, as long as you're moving in that direction, I think it's going to serve you better. The thing with alcohol to know is that if there's alcohol in your body cannot burn fat. So if like fat loss is the number 1 goal, just be conscious that alcohol is going to really slow down that process. All right. I guess the mechanism, the mechanism for that is because it's toxic, right? So it's like a poison. So your body's gonna metabolize that alcohol as fast as possible. So if you've ever been out like binge drinking, and then, you know, you're getting like serious cravings for pizza or like carbs, it's because your body just metabolized that alcohol so fast, and now you have a massive blood sugar dip. All right, fastest way to get it up, something quick and dirty, right? Some like carb, sugar, something like that. That's the mechanism. Same thing happens with any kind of like damaged fat. So like why deep fried is bad, because fats are good. I'm saying fats are good, but if they're damaged, so like super crispy bacon, deep fried, like what's deep fried? Fries? Like fried chicken? I don't know. Whatever is deep fried. Chinese food. That's a good example. Why are you hungry an hour later? Because your body's like, get this out as fast as possible, metabolizes it super fast, and then you're starving again because that dip in the blood sugar. So that's the whole same mechanism with alcohol. So, yeah.
I always feel like I need more calories early in the day, or a higher share of my calories early in the day than other people. So is that, why is there that variation between people of when you need to eat more foods?
I think it is dependent on a lot of things. So maybe just the nature of your lifestyle, your activity level, how your metabolism runs, when you stop eating at night. All those things kind of go into play. So my assumption is if someone's eating later, their dinner is maybe later than yours, or maybe even less or more satiating, right? Then maybe they're not as hungry as you in the morning. It could really be anything, but I would say there's nothing wrong with that though. And I think we're just all different and unique, and should be eating like different and unique eating styles. So, yeah.
You don't have recommendations on like when to eat too?
No, I definitely recommend like the whole 3 meals, no snacks, at least as like a starting point. But in terms of timing,
Right.
yeah, no, whenever, the more you can be in tune with your hunger signals and eat on like an intuitive clock, that's definitely going to serve you better. So, yeah. All right, so that's all I wanted to say about like setting yourself up for success. So any other questions?
Back to the rice thing, sprouted rice, is that okay, or is that like brown rice?
I honestly don't know much about sprouted rice. I think that's making it more easily digestible. But so in my thought process is any food that needs to be like cooked in this like extensive way and like I don't know, it's like you could just get it from somewhere else. I think there are ways to make it more digestible, like sprouting, but I'm like, at this point, can you get it?
Amazing things about sprouted quinoa, sprouted rice. I just soak them ahead of time. So if I'm gonna eat them, I'll soak them for
They're not
half
going
a day.
to damage your digestive system like brown rice?
I mean, from a friend of mine that's very into nutrition, he said that's the best thing. That's the best kind of rice you can eat is sprouted, or the grains. Just soak them ahead of time.
So maybe it's worth trying
Yeah.
and seeing how you feel. Yeah. You guys had a question.
Can you talk about eating before CrossFit? Like the hydrating?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that goes back to the meal map, right? And I generalize this into training day versus rest day. So, so like I said before, carbs are going to go up, fat's going to go down, and that could be before or after. Well, both. Right, so before your workout, make sure you eat some carbs, and then after your workout, replenish as well. Does that help? Do we need
And timing?
timing? So I think that is also highly individual. So some people can eat and work out right away, and they feel great. Other people can't. I do find once you clean up the diet and you're eating all whole foods without like allergens, you can kind of eat whenever and work out whenever and still feel okay. Because you're not eating things that cause like heartburn or acid reflux or bloating and stuff like that. So timing wise, but if you really needed something, some kind of like 4 to 6 hour window, before or after would still constitute like a workout day. So if you work out at night, for instance, so breakfast would be, low carb, higher fat, and then lunch and dinner, you'll have more carbs, like less fat. Yeah.
Like just to follow up very practically, if you were doing a 6 a.m. class,
Yeah.
and you don't have a good sense yet, like if you get up and like, I don't know,
Like force feed.
what would you start with?
Well, I would start with how are you doing in your workouts? Like, do you feel like you have energy to get through them? How's your performance? If you feel like it's,
Without anything.
yeah.
I do fasting, yeah, and then I just eat a bunch of calories. I can't work out without eating.
Yeah, so evaluate it. So without food, how do you feel? Maybe try it with food, see how you feel, and then, yeah, you can kind of go from there. Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on cleanses, juice?
Yeah, I guess I do have an opinion. That's one of those things, again, I don't see the value in it if you still eat a not clean diet, because if we're going to, I don't know, go on a 4-day cleanse or whatever and then go back to pizza and ice cream, it's like, what was the point? There's not much benefit without a lifestyle change. So,
And if you are eating clean, then you don't need the cleanse.
exactly.
Yeah, your body does that for you.
Any other questions, guys, before we wrap up? All right, cool. Oh yeah. All right, we have our raffle. Okay, Juan should pick the number. Juan, you're gonna choose a number 1 to 19.
Let's go with 11.
All right, do we have a Bree? Bree, you're our yeah, a little clap. You're our raffle winner. So, oh yeah, you get this whole little gift bag. There's some fish oil in there and some snacks. Yeah. A little bag. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming. You guys have, you have my nutrition guide, my contacts in there. If you have any questions or ever want to talk about more stuff, like I love geeking out on this stuff, so feel free to hit me up. Feel free to take more snacks, coupons. If you haven't tried the fish oil, you should try it.